hello, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussion for the fourth and final film in our eighth annual African American Film Series. My name is Essence Wilson. I am the co founder and chief strategy officer at Communities First, and I will be moderating today's discussion. We have some amazing panelists today with us, and we figured, you know what, it's February, it's Black History Month. There are people that are making history in our community right now, every day. So as we think about the film Balloon Man and we think about the history that Bill Costin made in terms of his career, his 40-year-long career in hot air balloon and being a master pilot, we're going to highlight some of the good work that's happening right now in our community. So we've started this film series to educate, inspire, and entertain audiences through independent or small budget films that feature African American filmmakers, artists, and subjects of interest to our community. So if you weren't there on Thursday, we had a fantastic crowd, people that we haven't seen in a long time, returning repeat visitors, new faces, and it was so much fun. We had great food. We had music. High Definition has become like our house band. They played wonderfully, and it was just good to be around people, to have a good time, explore the Flint Institute of Arts. And if you missed it, you're going to have to wait until November to do it again with us. So as I stated before, Balloon Man is about Bill Costin becoming, it's a documentary really about his life and his journey from Omaha to being a part of the Buffalo Bills football team, and then having to make a transition into a new career. And he ended up becoming a hot air balloonist and went so far as to own his own company doing hot air balloon rides, and then actually a dealer for hot air balloons. Who knew that was even a thing, right? Something that I've never thought about or considered. So today we are going to hear from some members of our community, and I want to give each of you the opportunity to just briefly introduce yourself, however you're showing up today, if it's professionally, personally, as a community member, whatever it is that you would like to share about yourself. And we're going to start with Nisi.
Hello, and good afternoon. I am coming with my Saturday self, so this is a more relaxed day. But I am Nisi Holloman. I work for Voices for Children, and I just think that it's a privilege to be able to come on here with some of the most amazing people in our community doing phenomenal work. And so I'm just honored to be able to be in this conversation and to have this discussion during this time.
Awesome, thank you. And Erica, could you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Erica McMurtry. I am the director of the Gerald Center for Christian Counseling. It's a ministry of the First Presbyterian of Flint, Church of Flint. So I know that some people don't know about us, but I guess we're the hidden gem that's tied to the church itself. So thank you for having me, and I'm glad to be among some of the greatest that are in the community.
Right, so somebody had to do it, right? I was muted. All right, Latasha, could you introduce yourself?
I am Latasha Perry. I am the author of the Kids Like Mine series and CEO of the brand Kids Like Mine. And just like everyone else, I'm so excited to be here today and honored and just grateful to be in great company.
Yeah, ditto all that. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Dylan Luna, and I am the Business Attraction Manager for the Flint and Genesee Economic Alliance. And I also have the privilege of being on the Flint School Board of Education. So excited to be here.
All right, great. Thank you for those introductions. And what I will say is each of you were invited really because I found you to be very inspiring. I know my daughter, she's a 4-year-old. She's read Latasha's books and loves them. I've worked with Erica through the Gerhold Center. Dylan, I watched your journey to becoming a school board member and the campaign that you have run. And then Nisi, I have had to call you a few times to help through your work at Voices for Children. You're always responsive to whatever is needed in our community. So some of you are household names in certain ways, and then others of you are those, kind of like hidden gems flying a little bit under the radar, but doing such great, amazing work. And we want to make sure that we have a chance to highlight that and to share, your story a little bit. So our next question is, tell us about your journey. How did you get to be where you are? And we will start with Dylan.
Okay, hot spot. You know what? I've always been committed to public service. For example, my family runs a food pantry. It's the largest Hispanic food pantry in the state of Michigan. So that's always been instilled to me growing up. So I was going to go to law school so that I can work in educational policy, but I felt that it was important to be a teacher. So became a teacher, first classroom in the South Side Chicago, and I went to teach in Detroit and in Flint. And from there, I went into lobbying in the educational space. And I came back to Flint a couple years ago to work at what was in the Chamber of Commerce. And what I do now is I try to bring capital and investment in the community because you need jobs and capital in companies to have good things like good roads, parks, but most importantly, public education. And I was kind of urged to run for the school board this last year, and I was kind of funny about it just because Flint politics can be challenging. But I saw an opportunity when there are 5 seats up, and I'm really happy to say that 4 out of the 5 folks that I worked with, won a seat. So I'm looking forward to the work we can do to really improve the quality of life in the city.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And so some people may not know about the food pantry. So can you just give us a quick, where's the food pantry run out of? What is it called? And
Yeah.
how can people
So
access that?
the Martis Luna Memorial Association was started over a decade ago because my cousin Roger Luna and his partner Ryan Martis and the Flint Police Force, they had passed away in 2002. They went on a hunting trip and their cabin leaked carbon monoxide, and that's how they passed away. So that next year, we started a scholarship for students, and we gave it out every year, and it grew to about $20,000. And in 2009, we opened up a food pantry, and we started doing both. Long story short, the food pantry became a lot bigger. It used to be behind the Hispanic Center on the east side, but because of its capacity, we got our own facility on Fenton Road on the south side. And right now we're renovating the property. Hopefully it's open by the spring time or early summer. And yeah, we serve on average 1,000 families a week when we're fully operational. We're bilingual, so we can access certain parts of the community. We only ask about the household size, so citizenship status or where you live at doesn't really serve as a barrier. And it's really nice to see it growing from kind of just like a small thing on top of the scholarship to giving out scholarships, turkeys, coats, doing health fairs, and helping folks get quality, fresh produce, meat, and non-perishable. So that's that.
Well, thank you for that. And, it's always good when you can hear something really positive come out of a tragedy. So thank you for being able to honor their memory by doing something so great. And serving 1,000 families a week is, a tremendous undertaking for that entire team, but good work and much needed in our community. So Erica, tell us about your journey. How did you get to be where you are?
Oh, well, let me tell you, it wasn't direct. So people probably like, this girl don't know what she want to do. It was just like I went from information systems to middle school. So I was like volunteering in the emergency room in the hospital, and then got jobs in like HR and like oncology practice. So it was just like, if you look at my resume, you're like, okay, this chick is like all over the place. But little did I know that it was leading me to the career that I had now. So I always had a heart and a passion for the community. So needless to say, during the times that whatever I was doing, I volunteering at my church, sometimes when you say yes to like one ministry, if then everybody else is asking you, hey, can you come volunteer here? Can you come volunteer there? So I was just like, I feel like I'm full time on staff. So my one friend had ever asked me, she's like, have you ever thought about like, going to seminary? And I was just like, I'm just a volunteer at church. No. But needless to say, I had started reading Wendy Kopp's book. She's a founder of Teach for America, because I had co-founded a nonprofit organization. So I was just like, oh, wow. Like she had like all these connects. She was talking about Princeton and everything else. And I was just like, well, maybe they have a seminary. So I was just like, okay, I did a search, end up finding that they did have a seminary. And I was just like, they had a weekend where you can come that was just catered for people of color that would come out and explore the campus. So I went, fell in love with it. And I was just like, all right, Jesus, if this is really you, let me get in, because this is going to be the only school that I applied to. So lo and behold, I got in and I ended up doing a dual program. So I did the Master's of Divinity and Master's of Social Work. So I knew that, providing services to the community, but then there were some underlying issues that people would have. Like, I was like, I didn't know about mental health, at the time, but I was just like, I know that, that it's a need of the community. So I ended up doing both the programs, graduated, and then I ended up in Flint. I'm originally from Chicago, so South Side, not South Side, but Dylan, I know you said South Side, but I'm a
Inglewood.
person. So I ended up here, and I feel like I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be at. So my long journey took me. I'm using everything that I learned from a previous job, so nothing has been done in vain. So that's my long journey short.
Awesome. So inspiring, especially when you think about, and sometimes I see people's resumes and I'm thinking, your life makes absolutely no sense. Can you please provide a cover letter so that I can understand how the dots connect and how you got to be here? So that's just a quick tip. That's a freebie. If your life doesn't make sense on paper, please provide a cover letter to help us understand. But we're glad that you're here in the community and that you're doing the work that you're doing. It's much needed, and you're doing a fantastic job. Nisi, tell us about your journey.
Erica, like you said, it all comes full circle. That was wonderful. Well, I was born and raised in Oakland, California, the Bay Area. So I'm north from your south, Dylan. But then went to school in Iowa, where I was one of 5 Black people. And so to go from this place of like this, California is just this hodgepodge of like diversity, right? And I mean, we just never really recognized color. And then I got to Iowa and everybody's like, oh my gosh, like you're my first racial friend. Can I touch your hair? There's no hair care products, there's nothing. And it was very, very interesting for me because I had the choice of going to school in California or Iowa, got a really good scholarship to go to Iowa. So I said, my mom's like, you're going to go. And I'm like, I can't stay out here. Like I don't understand the food. They don't understand my food. I can't even get hair care products. So then I went natural before anybody was like really going natural, because I couldn't do anything with my hair. And it just was very interesting. So I finished school with 2 bachelor degrees, and moved to Michigan to go to law school, and went to law school. Fell in love with the Midwest at that time, because in Iowa, they're like, we're the Midwest. And that was not like love right there. But in Michigan, I found great love and practiced for a little bit. And then Voices for Children reached out, did an interview with them, and they asked for a part-time executive director. And it's like, what is a part-time executive director? What does that mean? But it was the kids that were really behind the passion. And so I had already done a lot of work with nonprofits, with churches, ecclesiastical law, and things like that. But by working with the kids and understanding their story and recognizing the voice that needed to happen, I have found passion and purpose with not only my faith, but what I'm supposed to be doing by working here at Voices. So that's my quick journey without like going too deep into everything else.
Yeah, we're all very complex, and it has been a journey full of left turns, right turns, U turns, stops, yields, and all of the other things. But Nisi, I would ask that you would just tell a little bit about Voices for Children. Some people may not really understand what your organization does.
Yeah, we're kind of one of those hidden secrets. Unless you've had a situation, you probably wouldn't know what Voices does. But we work with all of the children who have been victims of child sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect, human trafficking, witness to violence. And we are this one stop shop of where the children come to not only talk about what has happened to them, but they get medical exams done there. They get We have therapy available. We go to court with the kids. We dance with the kids. We read books like Hair Like Mine, and those books never stay on our shelf, so we're always buying them all the time. But nevertheless, like, we are just trying to do anything and everything to bring the kids back to a place of childhood and restoration. We just had one girl who finally told her teacher that she was being sexually abused. And we worked in tandem with law enforcement and CPS. They arrested the guy immediately. And after, it was a Friday, that Monday, she went back to school and came back to therapy. And she said she had the best sleep of her life over that weekend. And so, like, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that kids are able to have good night's sleeps. They have no more nightmares, that they're able to just know that it's okay to play outside, or that it's okay to just enjoy their lives. And we're trying to get them back to that place. That's Voices for Children.
Thank you, thank you. And I know that you're also doing some work with human trafficking. I'm sure that what you do is difficult on a day-to-day basis, but it's so worth it, especially when you hear stories like the one that you just told. And you hope that no one ever needs Voices for Children, but we are so grateful in the community that you're there when you are needed. Latasha, yeah, tell us your story.
Before I start, thank you for everything you do, Nisi. You guys know I love Voices for Children, so just thank you. But so my story, just in a nutshell, I am a mom of 6, and our daughter, she is our third. So when I had her, I decided, I kind of started, I think the whole natural hair thing was kind of coming into play, and I started researching about it and learning about it. And once I had my daughter, I almost felt this sort of conviction to practice what I was preaching about: self-love and body image and that type of thing. And so I cut all of my hair off, like to nothing. I had no hair at all, and just kind of just grew it back out. And so I started having events in the city for women because people started reaching out about what was I doing for hair care and that type of thing. And so I started having events in the city just to assist other women and help them with their natural hair journeys and that type of thing. And so my daughter, she was about 4, and we put her in a ballet class. She was all excited to go to the class, and she was the only Black girl in the class, but I don't even think she realized that. And that wasn't an issue, for any of us. And she went to the class, and once we picked her up from class, she was crying. She didn't want to go back. And so we were asking her what happened. A girl had teased her about her hair, and she had her hair. And if you guys have seen the cover of Hair Like Mine, that's actually Cassidy that's on the cover of the book. But the little girl was making fun of her hair and asked her why she was wearing her hair like that, and told her hair looked funny. And so, initially I was like, I'm pulling her out the class. And then I was like, okay, wait a minute. This is a chance for me to empower her and just kind of turn this into a teachable moment. And so I started searching for books that talked about curly hair or afroed hair, or had a little Black girl as the protagonist that looked like my daughter. And I think I realized then, and this was back in 2004 14. I mean, yeah, in 2014. And I'm like, there aren't many books for little girls that look like my daughter. And, I had two sons before her, and I don't think that they were more into dinosaurs and cars. And so I don't think that it dawned on me that the books weren't there. I know that we didn't have them growing up, but we just read what was available to us, right? And so once I needed a book to speak to her about this subject and I couldn't find it, I decided that I would write my own. And so that was when Here Like Mine was written. And then the other books followed just off of different experiences that my children were having, or that someone else came to me and told me that their child experienced. So I just wanted to write books for Black and brown children to be able to see themselves, and not just books about slavery or hardship. I wanted books that they could open up the books and see kids and celebrate who they are and what they saw when they looked in the mirror.
Yeah. So important. And I think, the thing that I like is it's just a normal everyday story, right?
Mhm.
It's not, like you said, there are a ton of books about slavery or about the civil rights movement.
Mhm.
And I think those things are really important, but it's so nice to see, Black children in just a story about
Yep.
what's happening in life, right?
Like
and it's
I
just
always say,
normal.
normalize
It's
being
normal.
Black. Let's
Yep.
just normalize being Black and brown.
And I think another thing to just kind of think about is like they're important for our Black children, but they're very important as well for every child, right?
Yep.
To see our kids just in a book, normal setting, and just see and hear those stories. So thank you for that. And I know that going out and launching into something that you had never done before was probably, scary. You had to figure out a lot of things, but you did it, and you're doing it well, doing it very successfully. So thank you for that. So our next question is as we think about the film, there was a scene where Bill talked about being in an airplane and being able to look out. But he said it's different when you're in an airplane and there's nothing between you and the sky. So my question is, what can you see from the seat that you're in that others might not see? And whoever would like to answer the question can go ahead. Okay, go ahead, Latasha.
I guess from the seat that I'm in is that I don't think that a lot of people realize what goes into creating these books and getting them out into the schools. I have a ton of people that reach out about wanting to write books and that type of thing. And then once they get started, I think we read children's books and they rhyme and they're quick little tidbits, and it seems so easy, but it's so much more that goes into putting these books together. It's a little more complex, I think, that than people realize. But also, just from the seat that I'm in, once I go into classrooms, I'm more aware now. So I'm looking at the teachers' bookshelves, and I'm looking at what kind of books are you offering your kids, and when you're teachers and you're saying that the kids in your classes aren't interested in reading, it's like, well, what kind of books are you offering, to them? That I think that plays a big part of it, because we can't keep those same books on the shelf year after year after year. They're dated, and these kids want to see characters that look like them and characters that are relatable.
Wow.
I want to say wow to that too, because I mean, that's the same conversation that I have with foster care entities when they're placing Black kids, Black and brown kids in homes where people don't look like them, right?
Mhm.
And I'm just like, they need to see books that look like them. They need to have products that are for them. And like Suave is not going to work in their hair, however you say it, because I don't use it, right? So I'm so with you on that. And I mean, I'm just constantly, that's why I carry Black hair care products with me. I make sure people are educated. Like I have a whole, like, here are the YouTube videos, and you don't please don't go trying to cut the little boy's hair. Like, here's a list of Black barbers that you can go to, because the way that, so I'm with you on that. But what can you see from my perspective? I think that from my perspective of working with kids who have been in immense trauma, is that it's messy. Like, and I think Erica would understand this, especially with the counseling piece. Like, healing is messy, but it's so necessary, right? And so, for like, as we start talking about why mental health is so important, and getting mental health treatment, and it's okay, most especially in the Black and Brown community, I think that it's also important to recognize that it's hard work, right? And so it's hard, it's tough. It's just like like when you're doing weightlifting, it's not easy to like build up on the weights and everything like that. But once you do it and you keep going and you persevere, like there's healing, there's hope, there's resiliency, there's joy at the very end of it. And so I get to see the kids when they don't want to have therapy sessions or they don't want to come in the building. And I also get to see them when they are writing letters to other kids, letting them know why this is important, why this work is so critical. And so that's what I get to see from my seat. And I also get to see resiliency. Like a lot of times people, when they think about trauma, they think about mental health, there is this resiliency that happens, right? And kids, like, yes, they've had trauma, but they can also just be so excited to do this TikTok dance or have fun with Blippy and do dances like that, and they have good days. And so I think that that's also important, that trauma does not define them and they're able to move past that.
Okay. Well, my work is not as compelling as being an author or working in that field. So let me preface with that. But being an economic developer, I'm not a job creator. I'm not a developer. I'm not an investor. I work with them and I work with public officials at the local and state level. But how do I say this? What I see is just all the work that goes into the work to create jobs and bring investment into our community. And, I think Flint, Michigan gets a really bad rap for how our government sometimes is perceived. But I tell you, one of the projects that I worked on, and it's at Buick City. It's still a big concrete kind of jungle right now. But over the next, years, there'll be $300 million of investment and between 2,000 and 3,000 jobs that will go there, good paying jobs. And, what that means for the community is more customers for small businesses, the largest single investment on the north side of Flint in probably a generation. The largest brownfield, which is a contaminated space that used to have an industrial space on there, one of the largest in the country, becoming redeveloped, and just all the benefits that go towards our tax base. So we have better schools, better roads, and just things that make our quality of life better. But I got to tell you, working with the Flint City Council and the County Commission was a challenge, not because the individuals, everyone wanted to see this happen, but some of the questions they had, really good questions. And there's always this talk about how divided our city is or our county or community is, but kind of getting the package together, it passed 9-0 on Flint City Council and 9-0 on the County Board of Commissioners when it came to supporting this project, because these people really want to make our community better. And I really commend each and every one of them for doing that. And I think once it comes to fruition, it's going to really transform our community for the positive.
Well, it sounds like you're doing compelling work to me, Dylan. So don't sell yourself short.
Thank you.
What I think for me is that I guess since I get to hear so many stories as a listener, I think carrying these stories with me changes my perspective on how I operate. So what messages am I sending out to people? Just say, I come from, of course, I'm a minister, from a ministerial background. So if I'm preaching, I'm reading from a lens of people that I've encountered. So how would they hear these stories in the Bible, and how will I craft my messages so that they hear stories of hope as well, for those people who may feel invisible, who feel like they have no hope. So how can I carry hope for them until they actually feel the hope? So
Yeah, and I just want to thank you for that. I think hope is so important, and I think everybody in our community can always use an extra dose of that. We've had a lot of ups and downs as a city, as a county, right? But it does seem like going back to what you said, Dylan. There are so many good things that are happening. And Latasha, you said this too, but people don't know like the backstory of what it takes to get there, right? So I think about even our work as communities first. People think, oh, this development just popped up. No, this has been in the works for 3 years. It takes time, it takes money, it takes resources, it takes perseverance. So I applaud you for your efforts on that project at the Buick City site. And I used to work there, right? So I saw, how things went, and then I saw the buildings, and they're gone. And as we think about the legacy of our community as well, um, one of the things that's challenging for me is, my daughter can't go to any school that I ever went to because they're all closed. The places that I used to work, every plant that I worked at in Flint is closed, but I'll be able to tell her a different story, right? So there's the past, there's the present, and then I'm also looking forward to what the future holds. So we've heard a bit about the work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and one of the things that was interesting to me from the film was thinking about like hot air ballooning as a sport. It seemed fairly individual, right? Because they were in the balloons and they were doing these races, and it seemed really individual. But then you realize that it takes a whole crew to load everything up, to launch. Then they do this thing called a balloon chase, where they actually are following the balloons in a car or a truck to see where they land. One, to make sure that the pilot is okay when they land. Two, sometimes they're telling about the conditions and things like that that are going on. And then obviously they have to pack up the gear wherever that pilot lands. So we want to be a part of your support system. How can people help with the work that you're doing right now?
Oh, I'll take it. I'll start. Talk about it. Sexual abuse is probably the thing that nobody wants to talk about, but it's happening in our communities, and that's why it's happening because no one wants to talk about it but the people that are doing it. Human trafficking happens, and it doesn't just happen in Flint. And I go to the more fluent areas and I tell them about kids that are in Fenton and Grand Blanc that have been victims of human trafficking. And it's the reality of where we are, and the only way for us to stop it is to start educating, is to teach body autonomy to our kids, to ensure that kids know that if they don't want to sit on somebody's lap, they don't have to understand who the safe adults are in their life that they can have a conversation with about something that they don't like. There are many games that people try to play to ensure that kids, to see where kids are, to see if they could sexually abuse them. But if they have those adults in their life where they could have conversations with, then we can help to try and prevent this from happening. So, what can the community do? Start having conversations about it, educate people, get educated about it. April is Child Abuse Awareness Month. January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And so be an ally, be an advocate for the work that's being done. But most importantly, if somebody says something's happening in your family, do something about it. Like, it's not something that we have to keep secret, that only you and your family know about it, because the fact is that if we don't honor mental health and the work that needs to be done around mental health, then it just becomes this it becomes something that the child tries to live with that they just cannot handle. That question was probably easier for me than most people on here.
Yeah. No, I mean, but I think you made such good points, and I want to say that we want to do something with you in April. I don't know what yet, but I 100% agree with you. And I think about a situation that happened on Thursday. My daughter, there's a person that was present. She knows this person. She loves this person, and the person said, "Hey, come here and give me a hug." And there was nothing going on. There was nothing wrong, And this is, like I said, somebody that she loves and cares about, and she was like, "No." And I just let the adult know. I said, we teach her body autonomy, and she never has to hug anybody that she does not want to hug, because we don't want to end up in a situation where she feels obligated ever, right, to to be in that situation with an adult, whether she knows them or doesn't know them. But so often, I think back to like childhood, right? And it was nothing malicious, nothing, intentional, but you've heard adults say, go give your uncle a hug, go give your auntie a hug, because you don't want to offend them. And that starts to teach that pattern of you don't have control over your own body. So it's those really simple things and those simple moments. And I'm glad that you raised that point, Nisi. So we all need to be educating the children in our lives that they do have control over their own bodies, that they have a voice, that they can speak up. And if something is going on, they need to have those safe people in their lives to let them know what's happening. But yeah, I want to definitely make sure that we can do something with you guys in April to raise awareness for sure. Dylan, you would like to share something?
Oh yeah, go ahead. I was kind of going back and forth between like my day job and like my new kind of role, but I'll talk about the new role in the school board. I've been there for like 2 hours, so I'm learning a lot, and there's a lot to learn about for sure. I think one thing I would say is that a lot of people may have a perception that because my child is not enrolled or I'm not an alumni of the Flint Community Schools that it doesn't really affect me. And it's quite the complete opposite. So number one, you're paying taxes to fund our local district, so it does affect you on a financial sense. But two, we have 11 existing school buildings throughout the city, and we have 20 vacant properties throughout the city. And at one time, the district had 40,000 students. Now the city of Flint has 15,000 students, where only 3,000 3,000 students choose to attend our schools. So we have a lot of kind of rebuilding with trust to kind of earn that trust back from the families, and to also show the 3,000 that attend our schools that it's a good choice for them. So I would say that just because you don't attend the schools or your children don't, it affects you. It affects your property values. Anyone who wants to buy a house, one of the first things, if they have kids too, one of the first things they look at is a district. So if people aren't buying homes, your neighborhood probably isn't growing. And one of the things you can be engaged is you can come to the meetings, you can stop your elected officials at the grocery store. Sometimes they may have AirPods on, they probably don't want to talk to you, but they will talk to you. You can come to some of our community events and learn about what we're doing. Really happy that we're demolishing some of the properties. One, it would be Washington Elementary. I went there for 1st through 3rd grade, and unfortunately got burnt down summer of 2021. So we're just starting that process when it comes to putting the bid out, but hopefully this time next year to be gone and it'll be a green space. And hopefully one day we can find some folks to put some productive space in there. Wink, wink, essence. No, I'm kidding. Another cool thing is we're going to work with some partners, hopefully to bring some funds together to renovate our existing schools and hopefully build some new schools. So there's some good work being done, and I'm really optimistic about the future of the district, the trajectory of the students who attend the schools, and also this is the city of Flint. I mean, we're all doing some great things, and I think oftentimes people don't see all the great things going on because negative stories do sell. So the positive ones that you're all talking about is just a refreshing moment right now.
Yeah, I was thinking that, the same, like this is really energizing for me to hear such positive things. And so maybe we'll have to think about making this a more regular occurrence, just to, have people on, talk about what they're doing, to, tell the good stories of what's happening. I don't know if anybody else would like to share related to that question, anything that you need. Go ahead, Natasha.
Just again, just like they said, sharing with other families and friends about the work that I do. And I'm grateful that I'm able to go into schools and now I think people understand that the work that we do, you can't expect for people to come in for free. And so now schools are like, okay, let me pay you to come in and purchase books for the students. And they see that there's a need for the books, but I can't give the books away for free because I have to, it takes money and resources and that type of thing to be able to create the books. And so just being on board with paying not just me, but entrepreneurs and business owners in the community, period, for the work and the contributions that they bring to the community. The way that we show that we appreciate them is by honoring them, by wanting to pay them for the work.
Yeah, and I'll say that we pay other people, right? So just because I know you, Latasha, you know, does not mean that I should expect the hookup and expect that you're going to do it for free. You know, you have a family, you have a business, and you know there are costs that are incurred that are associated with that. And not just that, we want you to do well, right?
Yeah.
And part of doing well is if I would pay $15.99 for this other book, then I need to be willing to pay that same $15.99, and I should be more interested in that because I do know you and I want you to succeed. Erica, anything that you guys need over at Gerholtz?
I think also, just like you said, just being able to educate, like I guess normalizing it's okay to go get like mental health services. It's I know that, you know, in the community sometimes it's been like taboo, like, oh, you know, something wrong with you, you crazy, you know, or like sometimes like the people like your friends can't help you with what you're going through. So I'm like, just like you go to a heart doctor, I'm like, would you go and ask your friend, be like, I think I'm having some cardiac issues, so can you, you know, give me some help? Like, so like being able to say, hey, I think you need to, you know, contact a counselor. It's beyond my scope and like go get help. So I think just educating others and letting them know like, okay, we're out here in a community. If you need help, we're here so that you can access mental health services. And again, normalizing it, because I mean, mental health is real, mental health issues is real, and we're out here so that we can be able to provide the services for you.
I like that how you frame that, because like people think going to like an ER or doctor can save your life, but I've seen people have their life saved by going to a therapist or mental health professional.
Absolutely, 100%. And I have a lot of soapboxes and a lot of interest, but one that you know is definitely timely in this season is really normalizing mental health services, because I think that we have all had times in our lives where we would have benefited from talking to somebody else. Right, your friends know you, right? They may dismiss some signs and symptoms because you know, this is just her going through the same thing she goes through every fall, you know, or when she lost, you know, a parent or what have you, or this is a normal part of grief. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but you can benefit from talking to somebody, you know, that's a professional that's not always going to be on your side, right? That can challenge you and encourage you, and then also offer tools to cope with whatever is happening in life. And sometimes those are big things, and sometimes they're little things, right, that maybe affect us differently than other people. So 100% agree with you. So it's that education piece. It's the fact that Gerholtz is there, and they're able to make referrals to other resources as well if you need some different services in regards to mental health. So the next question. So in the film, so Bill was in his, I think it was his first rookie preseason game on the Buffalo Bills, and he was so excited because he made a touchdown, right? And he said throughout his whole high school career, he had never touched the ball, right? So here he is making a touchdown. Everybody's, you know, excited for him. And then the very next play, there were only 10 men on the field because he forgot to go back out because he was so excited about this touchdown he made. And so it was kind of this, you know, funny moment in the film. It was a highlight. I think him and like O.J. Simpson were like the top scorers, you know, at the time. And so seeing his name with someone else that was of notoriety was really exciting for him. But then not long after that, he got cut from the team, right? And he ended up having to go to like a minor league team. And I guess on the minor league teams, you had to work a full-time job, practice on like Friday nights, and then you had games on Saturdays. All right. So we've talked a lot about your successes and about things that you have done and things that have gone well. Is there a career or personal failure that you could share, just so that people understand, like, we're not always on top of our games and there are things that happen, but is there anything that you would like to share that, you know, maybe wasn't your best shining moment, you know, that you would be comfortable with sharing, recognizing that this is on the internet and people will see it?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point. You know what? I'll start. So my first teaching experience was in Inglewood, Chicago. I want to say it was 72nd Street by the Red Line, but I had taught high school Spanish as part of my Teach for America Institute, and working with students. It's an incredibly challenging kind of thing to do, and on the opposite, it's very rewarding because you help to make an impact in the life of a child, and things you say, matter, and they'll ring on for them for a long time. So that was a challenge. I thought I learned a lot of good stuff. And then when I got to my assignment in Detroit, I taught K-8 Spanish, and that was 450 students twice a week for 45 minutes. So it's a lot of faces and different ages you work with every day. And I went into that experience based upon my experience in Chicago as an extremely kind of militant disciplinarian and very rigid to maintain my class order. And honestly, I was successful in that. But I would say those first few months, I had noticed I had not made the effort and time to build relationships with 450 students, which can seem impossible, but I mean, you can really do it. And, that's what my coach told me, who would, observe me. She's like, your students are in their seat and they're listening, but they're not really engaged. So I took that feedback and really thought, how do I really get them excited and really liking the course? I taught Spanish. And, I did that, and I really made a really engaging curriculum. I taught on the east side of Detroit, and a lot of these students, to be honest, don't even leave their own city, let alone their own neighborhood. And as a Spanish teacher, I wanted them to learn the language, but I wanted them to expose them to the greater Hispanic culture. And I was pleasantly surprised when we did an eighth grade, like, around the world presentation. So they chose like a country they wanted to go to and talked about like places there, interesting facts. And in a way, it was like we brought them to a different part of the world that maybe they probably won't see for a while. And that was really rewarding for me. And I wouldn't have done that without really engaging them and seeing what they wanted to learn, because they gave me feedback about stuff. I mean, one of the feedback was, write neater on the board, but other thing was learning more about the culture and the language. So that was fun.
Hopefully your handwriting has improved since then. Does anybody else okay, not too bad. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share?
I do. When I wrote Hair Like Mine, I was newbie, knew nothing about writing. I kind of just went in and thought I was going to write this book, and it was going to sell all over, and that was really all I had to do. And I kind of had no clue about what was, like you said, you don't start off at the top. And so I had the book in my hand, and I went to the Flint Public Library, and I was all excited to do story time for them. And I'm like, I just want to do story time. I don't want any money. I just want to be able to read the book and share it with families, just so we can get the book out there. And they turned me down, and I was just crushed, really, really crushed. But what happened was it forced me to learn about marketing, and it just kind of humbled me in a sense where I had this book and I wanted people to be able to read it. And I knew what it meant to me. And I thought, you know what, if I could just give it away for free, people will maybe see the value in it. And so that's what I did, and gave it out. And then just by giving it out to people in the community, they were able to share with others who were willing to spend the money to buy the book once they saw the value in it. So yeah, it was very, very humble beginnings.
Yeah, very powerful lesson learned. And I remember, so when I worked at GM previously as a mechanical engineer. They went through bankruptcy, and so I tried a lot of other things, right? So then I had that Erica moment, right, where I was like, oh, I want to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this other thing. So we had a friend and I had started a business, and we recognized that there was a need for enhanced writing skills for young people. So we started this great program. People were really interested in it. We got all of the details ironed out. We had our curriculum together. We had, our pricing, all of the things were ready. We had a space secured. We were ready. And then we realized that neither of us were marketing experts at the time. And so here we're sitting there with, I think we had 50 slots available. And guess how many people showed? 0. So here we are sitting there, and we made all of this investment. We're ready to go, and nobody showed up because that was an aspect to that business that we didn't know and understand, because we were so used to developing programs, to executing curriculum and doing those parts. And so, this was really, 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 this is a long time ago, but we had no idea. But powerful lesson learned.
Yep.
And I have never had that happen to me again. So sometimes those failures are teachable moments. And then I think that if we had too many people show up, we wouldn't have been able to handle it anyway, right? But it was pretty funny.
One of the things that we try and educate around the prevention of human trafficking is that mistakes happen, and you can move past those mistakes, right? You acknowledge them, you have conversations about them, you learn from them. And I think that that's what these conversations are highlighting, right? That it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay, like, just one, don't try and hide the mistakes. And that's one of the things we teach kids with human trafficking, because sometimes, and I know I keep going like really deep with this, but what happens with human trafficking, especially with kids, is they get kids in through sextortion. So you send an inappropriate picture, they start blackmailing you about the picture. Instead of you saying, hey, let me go talk to my parents about it, they're blackmailing you because you made a mistake. And we all make mistakes as adults. And so that's one of the things we really try and teach middle school kids as well as high school students. Oh, Essence, you're muted.
And I was saying something so profound. So it's the month of February, the month of love, of passion. And I'm just curious, what is truly your passion, and what is it that drives you to do the work that you're doing? Because all of you have established that it's not easy, right? So it has to be something much deeper than that. So what keeps you moving? And we'll start with Erica.
I think for me, it's just I want everybody to live like their best life that they've been called to like live. So I'm that person where I'll be your cheerleader. I'm like, you say you want to do what? Fly to the moon? Okay, let's figure out how we can send you there. So I think for me, it's just showing people like the opportunities that they may not see for themselves. Like it's out there, and you have a community who wants to be able to help you achieve those goals. For me, so it's being able to help those achieve their dreams, even if they can't see it right now. But that's my passion, is being able to help people to achieve, like as John 10:10 says, like, I came so that you may have life more abundantly. So whatever abundant looks like for you, that's where I want you to be. And that's where I want to journey with you to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, that's amazing. We need friends like Erica in our lives.
I know, just drop the mic on that one, preacher. Just drop the mic.
I would say education is my passion, because, it was a huge struggle with me as a young man. So I couldn't read in 3rd grade. And for those who know, like in Michigan and many states, if you can't read in 3rd grade, you can be held back. You can be placed in special education, which is nothing's wrong with that, because you're getting support services. So I kind of turned it around, and I finished, 2nd in my class in high school, got into the honors college at Michigan State. But my point being, as education is kind of a golden ticket out of poverty into success and prosperity. And it's very profound on someone's trajectory, because I have friends and classmates who are in prison, live in poverty, and I have friends and classmates who don't, and have, very successful, fulfilling careers. And I just think that if we can help someone achieve their goals through education, then we can make a more, equitable society where people are doing what they want. And there's a huge misconception that the goal is to attend college, but you have entrepreneurs like, Latasha, who are doing some great things and writing some great stuff for us to buy. I have to check your book out after this, panel, but I really do believe that whatever you do, education is going to guide you, because it's not so much for you to get a degree, but it's for you to be a prosperous, good citizen.
Okay, I can go next. My passion is just ensuring that children have their voice heard, and so ensuring, much like what Erica said, like this abundant life, right? And so even though there's trauma that's happened, even though things have been hard, there's an abundant life for every single person that God has ensured that we have. And so I just want children to know that they have that abundant life and that there are resources and people and services that are out there, not only to love them, to restore joy, to restore hope, but that it's inside of them. It's all of those different things. And so it's the little kids, it's the teenagers. That's what gives me passion to do the work that I do.
Awesome. Latasha, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, for me, I think that we see commercials about, like, Dove has the campaign building up women and that type of thing. And so self-love and self-care is so huge right now. But I think back to being a kid, and I struggled with self-esteem. And so my passion just is getting kids while they are young to feel good about who they are. Because when you have low self-esteem, it really affects everything. The way you perform in school, the way you perform in extracurricular activities, that type of thing. So just building up that self-esteem when kids are little, so that they know that they are enough, so that they can feel good and feel happy and be their best selves, just because they feel good about who they are. And also doing that through literacy, just encouraging kids to read and making books that make kids excited about reading.
Awesome. Well, I think we can all agree that you have very inspiring stories. You have words of wisdom that you have shared with us. And as we conclude, I just want to make sure that people know that if they have not seen the film Balloon Man, it is available. I just shared a link in the comments, chantelpotter.com/Balloon Man. And she is actually the daughter of the subject of the film of Bill Costin, and she's also a filmmaker. So I thought it was pretty cool that she had an opportunity to make this film about her father and his life and really document his journey to becoming this 40-year hot air balloonist, which again, he talked about towards the end that it's been 40 years. The things are slightly changing in the field in terms of seeing more people of color. For the most part, whenever they would show a scene, it was him and his family and friends that came, and they were the primary people of color that were there. So still not a lot of diversity in the sport. It is a very expensive sport. But the good news is when we get towards the summer months, Communities First is planning to get a couple of groups together. We're not sure if we're going to go to Frankenmuth. They have a hot air balloon festival there. And then there's another one I believe it's either in Howell or Holly. So we'll do a meetup at one of the two. They often have tethered balloon rides. So instead of paying like $800 for a flight, you might be able to do $25 or $50 for just like a tethered ride, So you get the experience of what it's like to be in a balloon without the investment of, like I said, $800. I think it's $800 a person, which is a lot out of a lot of people's budget. And it also further reiterates why there are not a lot of African Americans in that sport. It's not something you think of, and then it's like, you want to pay $800 to go fly in a balloon and it doesn't look all that safe. It's hard enough to get some of our family members in a plane or on a boat for a cruise, right? And we're talking about a hot air balloon. But anyhow, something that I hope that some of us get a chance to do one day. So as we conclude our time together, I'm going to give you space and opportunity to share whatever you would like to share in terms of final words. Could be something to inspire us to dream big. Could be an ask that you have, could be, just something that you want to reflect on, or you could highlight something that someone else said in this conversation. But I want to give space and opportunity for you to share whatever you would want to leave our audience with today. And we'll start with whoever wants to go first, because I definitely don't want to put you on the spot. Or I can.
I'll go first. The other day, I had someone approach me, and they told me that they're watching me and they're happy that the way I carried myself. And I think my point is we sometimes forget people are always watching us, whether you're just walking in the crowd or you're like on a podcast as such, or not a podcast, but a panel like this, or whatever you do. And people really are either inspired, proud, or quite the opposite by the way you carry yourself. And they will respond to you. And if you don't really kind of model positive behavior and leadership, it can discourage them from wanting to get involved in things or even taking the extra leap. Like, for example, going to see a mental health specialist. So I would just say for the folks who are watching, just remember there's always someone who's looking up to you or looking down to you, and everything you do is very, very important, whether you're a teacher, you're a kid in school, or some of these awesome folks on this panel. So keep that in mind.
People are always watching, whether they're watching to criticize or they're watching to encourage. Somebody's always watching. So it's like when you were a kid, be on your best behavior. Nisi, go ahead.
They're always watching. And speaking of always watching, I was trying to think of what I would say to close this out, even though Essence told us in advance of the question. And I just wanted to like it to be on the spot. And there's this, we have a chalk wall at the center and the kids get to write messages to other kids. And it's just really inspiring to see what the kids say. And there was this one that has always stood with me and some of our other staff. And it just said, "You can do this." And it was just a little 6-year-old kid who wrote up there, "You can do this." And that's the truth. When it comes to education, like Dylan was talking, or Latasha, about, looking at people who are like you and doing the books that need to be done, getting mental health services, whatever it is, you can do this. And I mean, that's one of the things that we really want to instill in the children. Even though working through their trauma narrative is hard, you can do this. And I think that's what I want to end with today.
Natasha? Oh, go ahead, Erica.
No, I agree, Nisi and Dylan. Like, you can do this. There will be naysayers. There will be people who will doubt you. But like, what is that thing that keeps like nagging at you? Like, what is like, I should be doing it. Like, sometimes we are our own worst enemies because we'll talk ourselves out of doing something. If we're like, you have this whole conversation in your head and you just like, okay, I'm not going to do it. So don't naysay yourself either. But you can do it. Takes a village. You see all these wonderful people that are on the panelists today. Like there were probably people in their lives that helped them to get to where they needed to be today. So we weren't meant to like live in silos by ourselves. So find that community that of people who can support you. Again, there will be naysayers, but out one ear and out in one ear and out the other. Don't let that deter you. Don't let yourself to deter you, because you have a purpose. Like, you were created to be a answer to whatever problems that are in the community. So again, but we're here for you, and we want, like I said, I want you to live your best life. So I'm pretty sure other people want to see you succeed as well.
Natasha, anything you would like to share?
Yeah, just kind of a little bit on what everyone is saying. And I always tell when I do school visits, something I always tell the kids, and I think as adults, we need to remind ourselves of this as well, is that you can never fail at being yourself. And so in the age of social media, it's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing and to glamorize someone else's journey. But your real talent and all of your gifts, it lies within your authentic self. And so I'm always reminding kids, like, instead of trying to be and emulate others, try being yourself, because that's where your real gifts are. And the world needs who you were meant to be, not with someone else, but who you were. And so when you show up as your true authentic self, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah, and I guess I would just say that, each of us is in a leadership role, within, the organizations that we're with. And those moments and those roles count and they matter, but that's not the reason that we're in, that I would consider you all to be an inspiration. It's really going back to what Latasha said, the genuine core of who you are, which comes through in the work that you do. So if you were at a different company, a different nonprofit doing a different thing, you would still be there. You would be a very powerful, wonderful person in that space, right? So it's not always about the title, right? It's the core of who you are and who you're becoming, right? And so sometimes it is just the little things that happen. And I'll tell a quick story. There was a time when Glenn and I, we got into a car accident, and we're sitting here on the side of the road. It had just happened. It was icy out. And this car pulls over, and it's this lady and her child. And she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, but we're going to figure this thing out. And we had totaled, I'll say he had totaled the car because I wasn't driving. We didn't total the car. He totaled the car. And, I'm sitting there and I'm disoriented. I wasn't injured, but you just have that moment of shock and you don't know what to do. And she said, I just want to do something to help. And she didn't know what to do. So she starts looking around her car and she gave me one of her child's suckers. And it was just this little sucker. But it was just the idea that in her was something that said, there is literally nothing I can do, but I will do what I can with what I have to try and cheer this person up on a terrible day, in a terrible moment, in their life. When they got to figure out the car, you got to figure out if you're injured, and all of the other things that are happening. And so sometimes we just really need to be mindful in certain moments of how we can be a support, an encourager, inspire somebody. And it's not always the big things. It's not what comes along with your title or with your role. Sometimes it's just those little moments where we can make a difference in somebody else's life.
Yeah.
And so with that, I would like to say thank you for each of you for being a part of this experience. I have enjoyed myself. I'm sure those that have watched and will watch, because it'll be posted for all the perpetuity, will enjoy the conversation as well. This has been our conversation about Balloon Man, which was the final film in our African American film series. Thank you, Nisi. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Latasha. Thank you, Dylan, for sharing your stories, for sharing your passion, and for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you all too.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.